I had a praying mother who did a lot of praying, and that definitely rubbed off on me. So I did have faith, but at the same time, I certainly questioned it. I felt as if at 19 years old, being a scholar athlete, never getting in trouble, feeling like my future was very bright, and I felt as if I was trying to figure out why it was robbed from me. Like, why did I not get a chance to see it through? So I definitely questioned that a lot, especially in the beginning. And I used to think about it every day, like, why me? Why that? Why this? And the more I thought about the why, the less able I was to move forward.
The first step in answering the question why is exploring your faith. What are the things you trust in? What are the things you hope in? What parts of those beliefs have been most challenged by this experience of spinal cord injury? And how can you begin to, what do you want to keep that's going to continue to feed you and help you move forward? And what do you need to get rid of? What is holding you back and in conflict with what you're experiencing? Some people find solace in a God who is in control, who is going to guide them through this, who has a plan and things laid out. Other people say, this is a challenge for me now. I don't see how God would allow this to happen to me. That's not something I can accept, which is okay. There are ways to move forward, and there's a way to understand that in a new way. The challenge is to find someone safe to talk to about those things, who isn't going to try to impose their ideas, but still explore kind of where you are and what your thoughts are.
I never questioned my faith as far as believing in God or not. And it was just more of struggling with that relationship with him and trying to figure out what that plan was, because I believe he's got a plan for me. And so that was more of, okay, well, what is it? Like, it was more of a struggle to figure out what the plan was. It was never is God real, or, why is he doing this to me, or he must not like me or something. There was never that struggle. It was just more of, okay, let me figure out I don't understand what he's doing, but let me do what I can to figure it out, and let's move forward.
I know I wasn't planting too many bad seeds, but, I wasn't the angel like I should be. PK kids are labeled as the wild ones sometimes. So I did my share of dirty things, but I didn't expect it like this. So when I was in this situation, I said to myself, there's a reason why. It had to be a reason why. And I never knew that this world existed till I got here. And when I got here, I said, God, my purpose has changed. I look at things differently now, because now I want to start a nonprofit to where kids like me, or individuals like me who have brown skin, black skin, who don't have the opportunities I have, because I got injured on the job. And some people don't get the opportunity where they can sit down and share and express themselves, especially about things they have on their mental. And just to want to give back, and it tested my faith, because I'm like, I wouldn't have never been able to get in this lane or been able to express myself or give my testimony if I wasn't tested by the situation.
Initially, of course, and I think a lot of people go through this, you have that feeling of, okay, well, I'm going to be the one that's going to beat this. My injury isn't going to last, forever. I'm going to be, one of the exception that starts walking again magically. And so, you're praying, and your faith is on high, because you just like, if I pray hard enough, if I believe hard enough, I'm going to just be fine, and this isn't going to be reality. And then slowly but surely over time, things don't change. And then you kind of hit that crash where it's like, well, God's not listening to me, or none of this matters anyway. And then, you sort of lose a little faith. But I think over time, even past that point, you sort of balance back out, and you probably end up back where you were.
One of the big things to explore at first is this term of God, which people mean different things when they say God. And understanding if that's a term you're comfortable with, if that's something you want to explore and that's something you want to follow. What does God look like for you? Other folks find comfort in terms like higher power or the sacred, which again, learning to define those things is kind of a journey in and of itself. Those are all terms that can be helpful depending on what your interests are, what kind of speaks to you. The challenge is that often those terms can become so vague that they don't really have a lot of meaning behind them. And so we want to make sure that when we find a term that you're comfortable with, we begin to look at what your values are and what speaks to you that is outside of yourself. And that is the next step in the next path in this kind of journey that you've begun. And I think that's important to understand that this is a journey that, just like how long the transition is, just the journey physically following a spinal cord injury, it's a long journey emotionally following a spinal cord injury. And the same thing is spiritually. You're not going to find a truth, a thing to sit in right away. It's going to be as you learn and live again and adjust again, you're going to be in that in-between space for quite a while. And I think a big part of being okay in this journey is knowing that although you aren't settled in a place and it feels chaotic and you're kind of in this in-between space, that doesn't mean you're not moving in a direction that will be helpful long-term. If you are looking back and and you've had experiences with a certain tradition and it's really speaking completely against what you're experiencing, you don't want to go there at all, then we need to look at something new. And that often can simply mean doing basic research, going online, talking to different people, talk to different faith leaders, talk to different leaders of different traditions, if that's the direction you want to go in. And finally, if you kind of want to do it on your own and you want to explore reconnecting with the sacred on your own, there's a lot of good texts in spiritual sections in bookstores. There's a lot of good stuff that's out there in terms of ways to connect with nature, ways to connect with art and music, and other forms of simply getting outside of yourself for a while and being in awe of what is around you. A lot of folks find connection with that a good place to start. A lot of people.
I think I'm still learning, and I'm still processing and trying to grow and trying to figure out my new life and who I am. I know who I am, but knowing who I am through this disability and through this injury.
I think faith is important. I think having some type of spiritual anchor for yourself, whatever it is important. So I had to balance it out and not focus on, I'm praying because I want to be able to walk again. I just had to pray for peace in my life and for the ability to accept what happened and all of that. So I would say that I'm more spiritual in the way I was before my injury again. So not super intense, but definitely still a believer.
I don't know if it was necessarily anger. I think, like I said, it was more like I did everything that I was supposed to do. Like, I let you lay the path, God. I followed the path. I was raised in the church. I believe I'd done all of the things that I was told to do, and I still somehow didn't get what I dreamt that I was going to get. Like, it was, you were supposed to go to college, finish 4 years of school, maybe go overseas and play ball. No D2 person goes to the NBA. That's realistic. But at the same time, I leave there and then maybe have this physical therapy career that I thought that I was going to have. Like, I followed the path, and somehow, some way, when I was 19 at that time, I got injured and was like, dude, really? Like, why? So I don't know if it was quite anger. It was more like a confusion in what else do you want from me?
Anger at God is completely okay. And one of the biggest challenges we have is understanding anger as a negative emotion, when anger is usually a sign that you care, that you give a darn about all this, that your life matters to you. There are plenty of examples in most religious traditions of people getting angry at the divine, at the sacred, at the higher power, at God, and expressing that to God. It's important that we allow you to be angry. And it's not just simply an emotional thing of you need to get the emotion out. It's also energy that you can use to continue to propel yourself forward. I've always said if you believe in God, then God is big enough to take on someone's anger. You're not going to break God by being angry at God. And especially if you understand that this is a relationship with the higher power, with God, with the sacred, with the divine. A relationship involves give and take. It involves conversations that can often be challenging and difficult. So when I hear someone saying, I'm angry at God, I think that's understandable given how much loss you've had and how much grief there is. There's grief involved in this, and grief involves crying out and being angry and questioning. We don't always just sit there, though. We start in that place. We start in that place of questioning and being angry and upset. And when it's time, we're able to move forward and see what is now in front of us. And I think that's how growth happens. So being in a place of anger is okay. And having a safe place to express that anger often means if we can't express it to our family, right? We can't get angry at the people who love and are often caring for us, although sometimes we do. We don't want to express it at caregivers or even ourselves. Being angry at ourselves isn't often helpful. It drags us down. Sometimes God is a safe place to be angry. And I would hope God would understand that.
I prioritize things that are going to better my life and get me moving forward, and not, oh, let's have fun. That would be more fun right now, instead of where now I look at it like, okay, I need to be productive before I can have the fun. The fun doesn't come first anymore because basketball was my job, but at the same time, it was what I loved doing. So it was really like a hobby. The fun came first, and then everything else kind of came after. So I had to readjust. The fun not coming first. And that's just with getting older, period. I mean, going from a high school kid to college and growing up, that's just stuff you got to learn to reprioritize anyway.
I think after I got injured, I realized that no human is self-sufficient. But it came to me full force because I needed literally everyone around me. But prior to my injury, I thought that I didn't really quite need anyone. Like I had that immediate circle and they were helpful. But at the end of the day, I felt like I was going to go off into the world and conquer the world by myself on my lonely. And then after I got injured, I had to realize that I can't be that selfish human, quite frank asshole that I was before. Like I had to build relationships. I had to build the trust and the rapport with the people that I was going to be depending on to help me carry me through life. So I felt as if definitely that was probably one of my main priorities is you can't piss off people because you just feel like doing it today. You need to build these relationships and nourish them so that they'll last.
I think a lot of things that mattered before in a relationship with people kind of just went out the window when this happened, and maybe mended isn't the right word, but just closer and grew the relationship further and stronger because a lot of things that mattered before doesn't matter anymore.
So how do you find your priorities, right? Or what do you want to attack in the world after your injury? I think there's a few ways of going about it. Is what are some things that brings you joy, whether as a child or an adult? And if it's something, like you said, when I was a kid, I really enjoyed, building things. Is that something that you want to start maybe re-engaging that you kind of left behind when you went into adulthood and started adulting? Other things you might want to start pondering is, are there anything that I would like to leave behind or make a difference in the world? So whether it's giving back to the community that helped you out, or there are certain causes that are really true to your heart that you would like to be a part of, maybe that's another way to kind of start re-examining where to put your energy in. Another way of going about it, of reevaluating and seeing what you want to put your energy in or priorities to, is maybe seeing what brings out the best for you or out of you. Is it giving back to people, or is it comedy? Is it humor? Is there ways of going about to actually putting that out in the world? Other things I might ask a patient is like, who do you admire the most? What are the traits that you admire the most of an individual that's close to you or you know of? That's the beginning to kind of start reflecting on your priorities.
For additional resources, please visit our website.